Welcome back to The Pet Project, the show your pet wants you to listen to. And once again, we are live on Facebook right now, Tammy Trujillo's Pet Project. Jump on with us. We are going to have a lot of pictures posted of some of the great guests and the topics that we're talking about today on the show. And let's get right to it. I have not gotten out to the LA Zoo in about a year, and I cannot wait. I usually make it a springtime trip, so it's coming up. And this time around, I know there is going to be something amazing, not that there always isn't, but something new and amazing at the zoo, and that is the Lair Project. And we are going to talk to the curator of reptiles and amphibians from the LA Zoo, Ian. And Ian, am I right in saying your last name, Riccio?
Yeah, Riccio.
Riccio.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure. Ian, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This Lair Project sounds incredible. Tell us first, what does Lair stand for?
Living amphibians, invertebrates, and reptiles is the acronym, yeah.
So that covers the whole gamut, doesn't it?
Everything cold-blooded, yeah.
How long was this project in the making? Because I know you worked a lot of hours putting this together. It's pretty revolutionary, really.
Yeah, we've really put our heart and soul into this facility. It started about 9 years ago when we passed a proposition in the city to really kind of redo a lot of the older zoo exhibits, and the Reptile House was one of those on schedule for that. And we've been planning and making drawings and doing collection planning and collecting some animals for projects, and we finally got it all put together, broke ground a couple of years ago, and now it's up and running.
Now, explain to people how something like this happens, because as you say, you started putting together lists of what animals you wanted. Explain the process. Do you all just sit down and say, "Hey, I think monitor lizards are cool," or how does it work?
It's a well thought out process. You know, when as a curator, I want to make a nice mix of species, things that folks can identify with from Southern California, species that need conservation, species that are flashy and act as great ambassadors for a larger group. I mean, for instance, we really wanted to display one of the giant salamanders from either China or Japan. They're the largest amphibians in the world, and what a great conservation and educational message to display this massive salamander and talk about amphibian crisis and how so many are going extinct, et cetera. And we were able to acquire 2 giant Chinese salamanders in the last couple of years, and those are on display in the Lair, just to name one of the many.
And when I think of a salamander, I think of those cute little black or green guys that maybe are like 5 inches long. How long are we talking about? I mean, you teased us. You got to tell us.
Yeah, well, most salamanders are 2 or 3 inches long. We have them locally in Southern California, little slender salamander. People find them in their yard. Well, this is a relative, the Chinese giant, and they can actually reach over 5 feet in length, 40 pounds. We have one of the largest specimens in captivity. There's only 4 of these in any zoos in North America, and 2 of them are here on display at the Lair.
That is incredible. Now, as you say, you're a Southern California kid just like me, and a lot of people think Southern California, all they think about is beaches, but we got lots of deserts here in SoCal, and you actually have gone out in the deserts looking for critters.
Well, yeah, most of the animals you see on display in zoos are captive born in other zoos or in other conservation type projects, and we move specimens around for display or breeding, et cetera. But we have LA is a desert. People don't realize that. We are part of a desert, and we wanted to exhibit animals that people were familiar with. So some of the species that we exhibit, for instance, like the Southern Pacific rattlesnake and the San Diego gopher snake, which people see in their yard here in California, we actually found those on zoo grounds. They were wild in Griffith Park. We put them on display, and we talk a little bit about them, and so people can see them and identify them and act safely around rattlesnakes, et cetera. So some of those animals were collected. But yeah, again, we have one separate Lair building that's dedicated to Southwest Desert. So you can see these types of species. You can see Gila monsters. You can see a rattleless rattlesnake from a tiny island in the Sea of Cortez. We feature a lot of Mexican desert species that you don't see anyplace else.
Ian, what's your fascination with reptiles and amphibians? Because some people go, ooh. I mean, I think they're wonderful. I used to be the one out there chasing the lizards around my yard, trying to catch up with them and bring them in the house.
Well, that's how it starts. I mean, all of us were turning over rocks when we were little, and I kind of ran with it, I guess. I've always had a fascination with the lesser known, unusual types of animals, the weird bugs and snakes and frogs, and it just kind of blossomed. I think I attribute a lot of that to my family going, you know what, it's okay if you go and catch a snake and keep it for a while and learn something about it, and not telling me to, get that thing out of the house.
Yeah, I remember hearing a lot of that when I was a kid. Why did you bring that in here?
That's right.
Do they have personalities? I think people, obviously we have relationships with our cats and our dogs, but do this type of animal actually have a personality?
Well, I know there's a lot of people out there that would probably disagree with me, but snakes don't. I mean, they're individuals. They don't have the types of personalities that you can, similar to dogs or cats. I mean, these are domesticated animals, and they, for thousands of years, they've spent time with people, and that's just kind of how they've been bred. But wild animals, as snakes are, don't have those types of personalities. Now, snakes, I mean, they have certain behaviors that you can expect out of them, but they do have individual types of personalities, I guess you could say. They make great pets if you do your homework and you really choose the right animal that's right. Just like choosing any pet, you really need to do some homework and decide what's right for you and what you can take care of, and it's a long-term commitment. Most snakes live to be 20 years or so.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I had no idea they lasted that long. Wow.
Yeah.
I did once meet an iguana who loved to be patted. I mean, you could just tell this iguana, if you started patting this iguana, and he was huge, he was about 3 feet, he would push back into you just like a cat pushes back into you. You could tell he was loving it.
Yeah, iguanas do have more of a personality than most reptiles. They make a good pet, but you really have to do your homework, and it's a high maintenance reptile, so you got to be real careful about choosing iguanas too. I always warn people about that.
But they do, a lot of the animals that we're talking about here do make excellent pets, and certainly at the exhibit you've got a whole bunch that don't. And that's what we definitely want to talk about that coming up. How do you design an exhibit for an animal? And in fact, we're just getting our warning that we're 60 seconds to break. So when we come back in, I want to understand how you design a habitat for an animal that basically is a wild animal, is in the perfect world, is out there running around, but design a habitat that's going to be satisfactory to that animal for its life and also allow people to see it and to enjoy it. So when we come back, let's talk about that. We are on with Ian Riccio of the LA Zoo. He's the curator of reptiles and amphibians. We're talking about the Lara Project, which is an amazing new exhibit here at the LA Zoo. And if you're not in our area, well, you're going to put it on your list of things to do when you get to Southern California. You are listening to The Pet Project. It is a show your pet wants you to listen to, and we're back with you in just a few minutes.